I'm so happy. You deserve it all.
And you're a big deal now. Like, honestly, getting you on the podcast was like so exciting. Like
so
you're
touching.
No, like
I don't deserve that.
No, but like you're a really big deal. Like, so
it's behavior, bitches.
Hey, Behavior Bitches besties. First of all, thank you so much for taking the time and stopping and watching all of our content on YouTube. We put a lot of effort into putting these podcasts into YouTube. That means I have to get dressed for the day, do my makeup, and actually show up when I used to come in looking completely homeless to record because no one could see my face. This being said, for us to keep doing this, we live for your subscription. So please do not forget to subscribe to our channel and like and leave us comments and love. Live for the love and keep tuning in, and you'll always know when our new episode drops. Love you, mean it. Hey guys, it's Liat and
her favorite sister, Talia.
We're here today for a very exciting episode on Behavior Bitches podcast. So welcome back. I am in the seat and I am excited. Our guest today, I'm not going to put any fluff before it. I'm going to go ahead straight into this impressive bio. Ready? All right. Our guest today, Dr. Maya Shankar, is a cognitive scientist and the creator, executive producer, and host of the podcast, A Slight Change of Plans. If anyone is looking for a great podcast to listen to with amazing guests, go check out her podcast. Maya was a senior advisor in the Obama White House, where she founded and served as chair of the White House Behavioral Science team. Just the story of how she got there is very cool by itself. And I know a lot of people in our space are always asking me, what else can I do with an understanding of, behavior analysis? And this is a perfect example. So don't worry, everyone, I'll ask that question. She also served as the first behavioral science advisor to the United Nations. Maya has a postdoctoral fellowship in cognitive neuroscience from Stanford, impressive, a PhD in cognitive psychology from Oxford, also impressive, and a BA from Yale, also impressive. She's a graduate of the Juilliard School of Music's pre-college program, where she was a private violin student of Itzhak Perlman. So happy to have you here. Welcome, Maya. Dr. Maya.
Thank you. Oh, you don't have to call me doctor. It's fine. You can just call me Maya. It's so great to be here, you guys. Thanks so much for having me.
All right. So let's get into the pairing part of the show where we get to know you a little bit. And today is Black Friday, and I have to tell you that these consistent nudges that are popping up on my phone and notifications are adding a lot of pressure to my life. I suddenly am questioning everything that I might need. And I want to know, what have you bought on Black Friday?
I have bought already a sample dining room or a sample dining table chair to see if it works, because I can't deal with lots of returns, and then throw pillows.
Nice. Which retailer do you prefer? Just curious. Is there a retailer that you like? You strike me as West Elm.
All the retailers.
All of them. Okay.
All of them.
Oh, wow. That feels so fancy and elevated. Thank you, Talia.
You're welcome.
I don't know if my budget strikes me as
You're
West
like,
Elm,
at least
but...
I didn't, yeah, you seem like IKEA. No, I'm just kidding. No, you seem very premium. Okay,
why don't we just middle ground? Pottery Barn. That's like slightly in between,
no,
right?
I think Pottery Barn's very elevated. Okay, I like that.
It is.
I hope that the chair works out. That's actually smart to order one. We always buy like 6 of them at a time, and then we're screwed.
Oh, I like everything I do is just like return. But you're not going to get the deal. But you're not going to get the deal.
But I'm just like, I can't deal with mailing back 6 dining chairs.
I know.
Just
and then you lose all the money you might have saved, because the shipping back is as much as the chairs.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
like free returns, but you have to pay for shipping. So what does that actually mean? Is that a free return? It's not. Yeah.
It's not.
No.
As a marketer, I know those tactics. I agree.
Okay. Next question. What's something completely unrelated to your career that you're obsessed with right now?
Reality TV. That's a permanent obsession. So in addition to buying the throw pillows in the chair this morning, I'm catching up on the latest season of Love is Blind.
Yes.
And so I've just gotten to the point where Casey rejects Patrick. Oh, it's so heartbreaking. She's
so
like,
heartbreaking. And how he's not getting it at first, though, right? Do you see how he wasn't registering?
Like, are you trying to break up? Or are you trying to just get home? No, I don't want to go. Mom, I don't.
It was also slightly her fault because she kind of let him on a little bit because she didn't want to hurt
Yes.
his feelings, but then it makes him look really stupid because he's like,
Yes.
it's okay, you don't have to go on the trip. Like, we can still make this work. And back, like,
It was like, I'm gonna break his heart, and that's just not what I want.
You're not gonna break my heart to not go to Baja. It doesn't break my heart.
you hear her saying to the producers, I'm not into him.
Yes.
It's very sad.
It was really
Sad all
sad.
around.
He deserves somebody that is so obsessed with him.
That's what you?
No.
I just unfortunately don't think like my attraction to him is gonna grow that much.
Oh my gosh.
So is love blind?
It's absolutely not. Like,
Yeah, I feel like it only works when they find each other reasonably attractive
Yes.
enough. And so that's what it means for love to be blind.
yes, you have to have a certain baseline of attraction, I guess. And yeah, it's like, yeah, that Patrick one was hard.
That was so rough. Also, yeah, I just felt for him because he
I
carries all these
know.
insecurities. So,
And he was so
and my
upfront
husband's
about
Chinese
those
American
insecurities.
side of it. And I think I think my husband's a total hottie, and so I'm just like, go Chinese American men
Yes.
worldwide. I'm a champion for them. So anyway, it was the point of
Well,
Yeah.
you know, maybe the publicity will help him get
I
himself
think,
out
well,
there.
and he was such a good guy. Like, he carries himself so well. You need to watch the reunion. You'll see how it gets even more. There's a lot more in the
Oh,
reunion.
okay.
There's like a total like, whoa, not with Patrick, but with another. Anyway, but Patrick, how classy he is in the reunion.
That's right.
I'm like, he's just shows that he's a good guy, and I think he's gonna find the right girl. So
That makes me very happy. And to your point about publicity, I did check the gram, and he has like double the followers as Casey. So that's a good sign, right?
yes,
People
right.
are rallying.
They
him.
want to rally behind him. They vote with their follows. Yeah, I like that.
Amazing.
Okay, well,
So-
I always need someone else to talk. My sister's not as into Love Is Blind, but
Well,
I'm
I did start
obsessed.
the season, and actually, like, that is the one where he was talking about, like, isn't he like adopted or something? No, there's
No,
something
that
that
was
he's
the other guy.
American, like, he's an American Asian. He's like, no one knows about it. Wasn't he something, or am I making
He
this
was
up?
Asian American, but he always felt unattractive. And
Yes.
people would, yeah.
That's why he was happy to be on Love Is Blind.
Yes.
I only
and
watched
then
the
literally
intro.
she rejects him for his looks when she sees him. So it's just like
Yeah.
his worst
Yeah,
fears
it's all
are like
great.
reinforced, which is shitty. But he's
Okay.
gonna find
Yeah, I
something
love
better.
reality TV. It is actually kind of related to my field because I
is.
study the human mind and the brain, and so I can pretend it's work adjacent when I'm binging loads of crap TV.
Yes.
But I literally skipped out on a day of work to go see the Bachelor live finale in LA once, so I really am into it. Like, this is not
Oh
just
my God.
recreational.
Do you watch
The Bachelor? I'm not. Actually, this is the first season that I didn't watch.
I have not watched the latest season of
But-
the Golden Bachelor. You mean, right? I did not watch that.
No, and that means also the one before it. But I do love Bachelor in Paradise.
That
Do you
is
like-
really fun.
Yeah,
I
it's
also
like
love that.
that's a good one.
I basically spend all my recreational hours filling my brain.
Oh my
with,
God, I love it. Do you ever watch Bravo? Or you're
I
not?
don't watch Bravo, so that's a whole segment of.
I
the
know
space
that's a
that I
whole
have
new
to
universe. Well, just because I used to work at Bravo, and so I was like, if you like Bravo, I can get you like Bravo access. But I hear you. I would stay with like the Netflix reality shows. The Housewives is a completely different. Like, it's a lot of investment. Okay. And then I guess actually literally that dovetails into our next, which is like, what's your go-to comfort show? Book
Yeah,
or
that
guilty
answer,
pleasure?
that's why I left
So
it
I guess
out.
what's your food guilty pleasure? I guess.
Well, actually, I have a different comfort show, which is
Oh,
not reality
okay.
TV. Summer I Turned Pretty was very comforting.
Oh,
it's like if only we
yes.
could all have adolescence type summers where we have to choose between two hot dudes, and like that's the hardest decision we're
Yes.
making for ourselves. So that was very comforting. It's all so aesthetically beautiful.
Yes.
That was a very good show to watch.
Do you
Very
watch shows
comforting.
more
And
than
my
once?
Very, very rarely. I actually can't even think of. Has there been a show you guys have watched more than once?
No.
I mean, there's so much content. Like, it would have to be a lot.
No,
Yeah.
but I just like, I always, I don't know, it comes up on my feed like every maybe like year or so, like about how people, like it was just interesting. Maybe you know about this, like if people have like some sort of trauma or something, they like to watch the same show over and over. Like, because the brain like
predictable.
recognize it, it's predictable, something
No
like that.
surprises.
Yeah.
Yep.
Have you seen something like that? It comes up every now and then in my feed.
As like an FYI.
Yeah, but it's like I could barely like focus on watching it once. You think I'm like going when I know what's gonna happen?
No, I typically just search for new stuff, but of course there's movies like Love Actually and stuff like that, where I'll, every few Christmases I'll pull it out. You asked about favorite comfort food. I think for me it is Kraft mac and cheese. That's like just a tried and tested one. And as a little kid, so I grew up in an Indian American home, and I was so stupid because my mom cooked the most delicious Indian food ever, but I rejected it because I just wanted to assimilate. And so I just wanted the food that all the other families were eating. And so Kraft mac and cheese was sort of a symbolic version of that. Like, what does it mean to fully be part of the community I grew up in?
That's
and now,
so
of
funny.
course, I have to call my mom and be like, "Thank you so much. Your food was amazing."
And you see how much effort she was putting into it. Like,
that's what I felt about our lunches as kids. Like, because we were kosher, like other kids would get Lunchables, and that just like seemed so cool to me. I was like, why can't we get that? My mom would make us like these like pasta salads with olives and like peppers cut in it, and like
it was so nice.
Like balsamic dressing.
To be normal.
Yes, and I was like, this is just so not cool. Like this feta cheese pasta salad. But like now I'm like, that is so much more work than a Lunchable.
No, yeah, you don't even understand. I have a distinct memory of the first time I brought a Lunchables to school.
Like feeling hot?
It was an event for me. Oh my God. I felt like I was the queen of the world. Like no one could touch me on that day. I got the pizza version.
Yes.
So it was like,
so are we.
And it's so gross. Yeah, it's so gross.
And the sauce goes through the little holes.
Yep, exactly. And then you put a little mozzarella cheese, sprinkle it on top. And it was just a day for me.
I totally.
It's a formidable part of my childhood memories. So I think that says everything.
Totally.
Oh my God.
Oh, that's amazing. Okay, so Kraft mac and cheese.
Which leads us into what you like to know about everyone.
I love knowing people's coffee order. I think it's very telling for some reason. What is your coffee order?
What do you guess her coffee order is?
I'm going to guess
you said.
Since I feel like I know her, the West Elm, the
pumpkin spice latte. Why don't you make her like the most basic bitch ever?
I think I see you as like a latte. Like, I don't think you like a really strong coffee. I see you as like a latte kind of girl, but I could be wrong.
Okay, so I am more of a black tea drinking person.
Okay, completely off.
So I usually just do black tea, and coffee has taken me a long time to get used to. So because it does taste like bitter dirt if you drink it black. Just for new coffee drinkers out there, like it is a little bit of a shock to the system. Like this is what everyone's been talking about. So I probably only started drinking coffee about 10 years ago. It was actually during my time in government because it was so stressful. I needed the caffeine.
Yes.
And so I will do a latte, but it needs to have sufficient cream and sugar for me to be able to have it. So I'm a total lightweight in the coffee game. Like I don't appreciate, I'm south of San Francisco. They have so many fancy pants coffee shops here. They're all artisan. It's like high acidity, fruity, whatever. I just can't do any of it. It's totally lost on me and it's hard for me to drink.
I don't know much about coffee either. For me, it's completely like social.
Yeah.
No, it's not even functional because my Adderall is way better than any coffee. However, it's more like I'm not ready to start work yet today. I'm going to go get a coffee because that's delaying my work, for the day.
Yeah.
Like I'm not ready to lock in yet. What's your coffee order?
My coffee order is just like me, intense. a double espresso. So just like pure. And I do like Starbucks because I think it's strong, but I do love the artisanal places too. But Starbucks double shot with a little bit of half and half to cut the strength. But yeah.
Starbucks double shot. Wow. Who's the West Elm person now? I think
she is the biggest Starbucks fan. Like,
Starbucks coffee is so caffeinated. Like it will send me into a tizzy.
Yeah, if you're lightweight. But yeah,
this is tea, right?
Yeah, your tea. You can stick with that's probably healthier.
All right, everyone. Now, what's very exciting is 1 week ago, almost one full week ago, Maya's book came out. The book is titled The Other Side of Change: Who We Become When Life Makes Other Plans. You can get this anywhere, Amazon. We're also going to put the show notes at the end of the episode, so you can check it out there.
Go out and buy the book. It's great. We got a peek at the manuscript.
It's behavior, bitches.
Okay, quick break to talk about something that we recently did at Snabba. We had our holiday Snabba party at a place that maybe you haven't been in a while, if you're anything like me, but you went and now you've been more than once since you went. And the place is Dave & Buster's, okay? Dave & Buster's is like an adult playground. It is, okay? And random fact about me, I happen to love arcades at any game that has any token economy of earning tickets to trade in for prizes. So, if you're thinking about what you should be doing, maybe on a date, maybe take yourself, maybe with your team, here's an opportunity right now. Dave & Buster's has the Dave & Buster's Eat and Play combo for $19.99. Okay? With that, you'll get an entree and a play card. So you could have a date of food and playing. What more could you want? As a behavior analyst, you're going to see so many behavior principles all in one place. Super overwhelming and exciting. It's just so much fun. So look up where your local Dave & Buster's is and go take advantage of this deal today. You won't regret it.
Okay, so now we're going to get into my story. It's so crazy. I know we're going to ask her to tell her story. I've been following you since your podcast came out, and I think that you'll
Thank you.
yes, of course. And it's so funny because I was revisiting some of your earlier episodes, and you had Tiffany Haddish on, and I was just with her at this power retreat, like literally was working out with her, was hiking with her, and I was like, this is so, it was such a like, here I am revisiting this, hearing her talk. I was just hiking with her and hearing her. Anyway, it was really fun. But why don't you tee up Maya's story, which is just so relatable. And
yes, a little more on this after, but like hearing your story and everything that you talk about resonates so much with me because obviously not the same story, but I have something very similar to how my life, like literally, like I thought I was done, like with everything, but it's so much of what you talk about and the work that you do that I think is so important. Can you tell us your story?
Yes, but can I quickly hear your story? I know you're supposed to be interviewing me. That's
Sure. I'm going to try to say it quickly. My sister's like, say your story quick. So I'm going to try to say it as quick as possible. She's like, Baba, your fingers fell off, this and that. I'm like, okay, got it.
hit the highs.
So really, I always knew what I wanted to do. I wanted to be a teacher for as long as I could remember. Special ed teacher, just shifted to that once we had a brother with autism born. And so I was going to school for that. I always felt like I knew what I wanted to do. Like that was my thing. Like in high school, I started the different like groups for the special needs adults. And then like I was in like the special needs theater. Like it was like who I was. Like even going to university, all the special needs kids I ever worked with wrote letters like University of Maryland wants Liat because like she has nice hair or like, you know, whatever it was. So that was like my entire identity. Then in college, I got diagnosed with lupus, which literally came on one day out of nowhere. I went to bed normal the day before, ran 7 miles. Next day, I woke up unable to open my doorknob, use my hands, anything. That took a while to figure out what it was going on. But with that, I was doing a lot of college from like a hospital bed. Whatever. Thank God I always say I was a special ed major because they like talk about like adaptation and, making something accessible. Yes, accessible. So it was like, all right. So I did a lot of that. I thought I was going to go home from school. I ended up coming back for like the grad school year, and I started teaching at a charter school. Within like 2 weeks, I was like, I was hospitalized. I was like, I just can't do this. I'm catching everything the kids have. I'm gonna
With
pivot.
lupus, you're obviously immunocompromised for the listeners. So working with kids is just not the best idea.
Yeah. So a kid would come with a cold. I'd be hospitalized with it for like 2 weeks or something. So I was like, what can I do? So then I was like, I'll go into ABA, where I know it's more one-on-one with kids with autism. You know, there's less socialization there. So less germs. I think I could control my schedule more. So I'm like, okay, whatever. So I go back to school for this. Like I also had to leave my job. So I'm just doing this on the side and collecting my hours, which took me so long because I was in and out of the hospital all the time. Anyways, eventually it's time for me to take this test. You have to get 2,000 hours and then sit for this board exam. From the beginning of like this grad school program, they tell you about this test you're going to have to take, which is, by the way, what I do for my business now, which we'll get there. I had come home for a Jewish holiday. And when I came home for a Jewish holiday, like right when I was about to start studying, I went for a routine. I mean, not routine, but like apparently I needed my gallbladder out. And the doctors didn't read my medical records. So I came out of the surgery, which I didn't know they didn't read it at the time, obviously. I came out of the surgery with extremely itchy hands. And this is because they didn't read my medical record. And anyways, over the next 3 months, I watched my fingers slowly die, like my hands.
So
I
you have to
couldn't
give
use that.
context. You have Raynaud's as part of your
thank
lupus,
you.
where
She
she
helps me.
loses circulation. So when you get surgery, it's very cold in the operating room. They're supposed to put mitts on your hands. They did not put mitts on, so essentially her extremities were frozen like frostbite for 3 hours during her surgery. So she comes out with frostbite, and 3 fingers are.
But you don't know it's frostbite in the beginning. It takes a while for the black to show.
So the fingers start, and then a week later, the itch, and then they start to turn black.
Yes. So I just feel like in and out of hospital, like just like on morphine Dilaudid. They didn't know what was going on. No one figured out what was going on yet at this point. I mean, it was bad. It was eventually someone here showed my pictures to this doctor at Hopkins, and he was like, I'm willing to see her the day after Thanksgiving, which is so funny because today is the day after Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
So it's actually my 9-year anniversary.
9-year anniversary.
Yeah.
Wow.
And he was a doctor who figured out like, oh, this doesn't randomly, I thought I'm just going to be losing fingers my whole life. He was like, this doesn't randomly happen. And he was the one who determined that the doctors made a mistake. But he put me in hospital for literally 3.5 months. And I was just watching them decompose in front of me. I was in a very, very dark place, as you can imagine.
And why did they have to watch them decompose? Because I just said cut them off already. But apparently you want to maintain as much of the tissue and bone as possible. So
You
they're
wanna
waiting
see
for the
where the
body to
dying
stop
dies,
where
yeah.
it dies itself. But the waiting and the pain. But then you were worried that you were missing time studying. So there she
So,
is.
I mean, literally, I don't know. I was worried about missing time studying, but you could have given me like 1 + 1 and I couldn't tell you. I was like on so many drugs, you know? And by the way, it wasn't touching the pain at all because it was like a nerve pain. Anyways, the doctor also saved my life taking me off those pain meds. He was like, it's not even working. And I was mad. But
You're not
long
addicted.
story, I'm not addicted. So that's positive.
Yeah.
Anyways, but I kept feeling like, I
Your
got to
fing-
take this test. I got to take this test.
Okay, so you're in a very compromised state where you can't actually take an exam because of
Like the
fact that you're
exam,
feeling-
let alone I couldn't even like wipe myself or dress myself or do anything.
Oh
Hold
my
a cup of water up to myself. So at this point, I'm just like, I'm feeling like a major loser. I had never been able to hold a job. All my friends at this point, this was 26 years old, like had been working a couple of years already. And I was like devastated. I remember not being able to be a special ed teacher anymore and being like, God, please help me figure out a way to make this $52,000. Like that was my salary at the time. And I always like joke now saying that like God was like, I got something way bigger for you. It's going to cost you a couple fingers, but just wait up. And anyways, eventually I got them amputated and I was an OT relearning to use my hands, like hold a pen, do different things. And I had found out that I could no longer use my ADHD meds because they were worried for blood flow that would. And I'm like, how am I going to pass this test without ADHD meds I've been on since 4th grade and without my hands? So I was back home living with my parents, like moved out of like my independent living. And I would go sit at a bubble tea shop every day and like practice holding a pen and writing my notes out. And I started an Instagram account called Study Notes AVA, which was just for me to see my study notes. And I started drawing like funny ways to remember things because, again, I'm like, if I'm going to remember this shit, I got to make it really memorable. So there was like buttholes and sex and drugs and like funny things to remember things. And people started following it. When I passed the exam, people were like, oh my God, you helped me so much. And so I was like, if I could pass this test, I could get anyone to pass the fucking test. And that's where my company motto, pass the fucking test, came from.
Oh, okay.
And now we have about 2,000 people a year going through our program. It's grown to something bigger than I could ever imagine. But when I say like I was in a really, really, really dark place and everything that I had once known to do, I felt like was taken from me. Like my identity was so much based on like my physical ability to like my show and tell as a kid was push-ups, you know, and like that.
Yeah.
And like, you know, like doing karate for years and Muay, and it was just like that wasn't me anymore. So how was I gonna? And that's why it resonates so much with everything that the work that you're doing. I was like, oh my gosh, this feels so on brand.
Relatable.
Yeah,
Yes.
relatable. So that's my story. Hopefully, I didn't take too long. Is that okay, sis?
We're going to have to cut it down for the podcast, but that was good.
Okay, we'll work on it.
No, it was great.
I'm so glad that you shared that with me. I did want the long version, so I'm grateful for all the details you did share. Because honestly, like I wrote this book for people like you. Like you were the person that I was visualizing in my brain over all those years when I was writing those words. And I'm going to get emotional thinking about your story. I find your story so beautiful and so filled with resilience. I also think like special education teachers, like they're just the best of humanity. And I think it already just reveals so much about the type of person you are, that was your goal in life. And then you've been able to flourish in spite of all the obstacles you face and are still giving back and are still doing so much for society. So anyway, I'm just so moved by it. I think thank you for sharing that. It really made my day.
Well,
Just to
thank you for doing for the work you're doing. It's all of us. It's
and
amazing.
I think it's giving. I think that's what you're right. So many people, and you are the perfect story. And that's why when we heard you were coming on, first of all, I was like, "Are you sure it's Maya Shankar?" Like,
we literally have a text.
we have a text from like, "There's no way she's coming on." No, but no,
asshole.
Okay, I'll tell my story now. Sorry to put you on the spot. So
no. But yeah, let's hear your story.
yes. So from the time I was a little kid, the violin was the focus of my life. So I began playing when I was 6 years old, inspired in part by the fact that my grandmother had played the violin as a little girl growing up in Burma and in India. And I was so close to my grandmother. I just absolutely adored her. And so on our summer trips to India, I would just be by her side all the time, just totally inseparable. And obviously, we had many oceans separating us, right? As I was growing up in the US and she was still in India. And I think playing the violin was my way of staying close to her. And so when my mom brought down my grandmother's dusty violin from the attic, which she had brought with her to this country when she immigrated, I was immediately drawn to it. And I asked my mom if she could get me a little pint-sized violin for my 6-year-old self. And very quickly, it just became my passion. I would run home from the bus stop every day after school. I would practice for hours. My parents had to tell me to do all sorts of stuff, but they never had to tell me to practice. Like I just really had fallen in love with this. And when I was 9, I started studying at the Juilliard School of Music. When I was 13, Itzhak Perlman invited me to be his private violin student. And that was the vote of confidence I feel like I needed to believe in myself and to believe that maybe I had a chance of going pro. Because I think up until that point, if you're like me and like just a normal person, you feel tons of imposter syndrome when you're in a pressure cooker like Juilliard, right? You're constantly under the glaring spotlight and all of your mistakes are being analyzed. And I never felt like I was as technically skilled as my peers, and I just always felt like I was lagging behind. And when Perlman took me on, I feel like he was basically saying to me, yeah, maybe you're not as technically skilled as the other kids, but I feel like there's something meaningful about your music. And actually, I'd asked his wife years later, I was like, why the hell did he take me on? Like, I was so much worse than he had a handful of students. I was like, the other 4 were kicking my butt. Like, what was it about me? And she said, he felt like you had something to say. And I thought that was so beautiful because it was also very accurate. I wasn't that technically gifted and I didn't practice as much as my peers did. My parents were much more intent that I have a more balanced life. And I had 3 older siblings and, we all did sports and we were all in acting classes and we all, we just did a bunch of extracurriculars. And so I was never as committed as they were, but I love that he felt like there was something emotional that was coming through in my music that he resonated with. And so long story short, I'm on the up and up. My big dreams are coming true. I'm soloing with orchestras. I'm getting to travel. It's so exciting. And then I have my slight change of plans where I was practicing one morning. I overstretched my finger on a single note. It was my pinky finger. I heard a popping sound. And despite being in denial for a very long time, despite resisting the injury, doctors eventually told me that it was a career-ending injury. So they were like, "You've damaged these tendons and your dreams are over, kid." And actually what's so funny, Liat, is I don't often share this part of the story, but at the time I was diagnosed with juvenile rheumatoid arthritis. So I had inflammation all around my joints and I took immunosuppressants and I took anti-inflammatories for almost 7 years. So I was also in this immunocompromised state.
Wow.
And it turns out that it was actually a misdiagnosis. And doctors also hadn't thoroughly read my medical records. One of them didn't write the word not. And so a blood test was misunderstood. And when they looked at my MRI scans, they didn't take my age into account. It was all very complicated, but I've been down a version of the autoimmunity path, right? And since then they've always been wondering, like, do you have some sort of autoimmune condition? Because some factors point to this, some don't. Um,
Wow.
but yeah, so all that to say, I experienced in a moment having this identity that had been at my core. I mean, something that I thought would be a part of my life forever taken away from me. And I wonder if this is true for you as well, Leah, but I feel like sometimes we don't know just how much something has come to define us until we lose it. So we know it's a dream, we know
Mhm.
it's an aspiration, but we don't know that it is constituting our self-worth and what gives our life meaning and purpose and value. And then it's taken away and we feel so unmoored and so disoriented.
I feel that in a huge way. I remember just thinking everything. Like it was, I mean, the lupus had already like a couple years before losing the fingers, like really like taken me like what? Like
You used to be so healthy. You were the
I-
girl who
I
did
was
push-ups
a-
and running and karate, and all of a sudden that identity, it like progressed to
yeah,
being
that.
Yes.
And I was always the one like on the run, like like just like all like I'm running like I had so much energy that it was like, wait, like having to slow down, like I didn't, you know who I was anymore in so many ways. And so it really is like a whoa, wake up. And like, you don't realize it. And that's why it's like sometimes like my students are coming to me and thanking me, like, you don't understand, you changed my life. I've been trying to take this test for however long, or, and I'm like, no, you don't understand. Like, you changed my life because I
give you
have a
meaning.
reason. I have a meaning. Like, I have a why and a reason to like wake up every day. And with having everyone around me, I realized all the things that I still can do, and I put them all together to build what I have now. Or people are like, how did you have the idea of building this? I'm like, I didn't have the idea. It literally was just everything left that I was able to do. Like all things me
Yeah.
left.
Yeah, I love that you say this because actually this is one of the lessons that I learned kind of the hard way over time, and it's honestly one of the theses of my book, which is that a reason why change can be so scary is that it does threaten our sense of self-identity, right? So I found myself in that moment grieving not just the loss of the violin, but also the loss of myself in this more foundational way, right? Because like you said, so many parts of us become entwined with this identity that we have. And for me, on a personal level, I'm just reflecting on the fact that, I was bullied a lot as a kid, right? I was one of a few kids of color in a predominantly white community. And the violin space, my musical community was super international, right? It was in New York City, kids from all over the world. I was so accepted in that world, and no one was thinking about the color of my skin. And I feel like I really belonged. And so the violin also carried with it a sense of belonging, right? There's like so many different components. And so one thing I've learned, and I would advise all of your listeners to engage in this mental exercise, is to try to define yourself not simply by what you do, but by why you do that thing. So ask yourself, what is it that makes me love the things I love to do? So, what was it, Liat, that made you aspire to become a special education teacher, right? What was it that made me fall in love with the violin? Well, for me, the answer was I loved emotionally connecting with people, and music was one vehicle through which to do that. But the reality is that just because I lost the violin didn't mean that I lost what made me love it in the first place. I still had that passion within me, that passion for human connection, for understanding what makes other people tick, for tapping into their inner beings and trying to connect with them. And so then the exercise just became, well, through what other outlets can I express this why? Can I express this part of myself? And I sort of subconsciously did that over the years, right? As a cognitive scientist, I study human connection in my role hosting A Slight Change of Plans and then writing my book. It's all been about the pursuit of human connection, right? I've done these, multi-year, deep interviews with humans about their lives, which have brought us to such, difficult places at times, and is all just about feeling close to others. And so that why, when you figure out what it is, whether it's helping people or caring for people or learning something new or having a creative outlet, like that can be your soft landing when life makes other plans for you. And it can be a North Star that guides you towards your next steps. And what I'm hearing is that you actually did exactly this. You were like, okay, I'm now in a world where I'm facing new constraints, but what I care so much about is lifting up a community and being an advocate for a community and helping a community thrive. And now I'm going to do that through the test prep work by empowering other teachers. I'm going to do that through the podcast by elevating my listeners. Like, it seems like you're still expressing that why, even though it doesn't look like it looked when you were younger.
Whoa, that is so perfect. I'm just thinking about what's been on my mind a lot is like, I'm in more of the corporate sphere. My sister's more entrepreneurial with this business, but I'm sure if you're on LinkedIn and you see just what's happening in corporate with all these layoffs, and I constantly think of all these identities just being shattered. It's like, I think I'm just so acutely aware of. I feel like every day I see someone post open to work, or you hear about another 10,000 people. I'm like, okay, another 10,000 people that not have only lost a paycheck, but have lost an identity. And I think that compounded impact. I'm just so, and I think that I'm oftentimes thinking, because I definitely wrap a lot of my identity in what I do. I love what I do. And I think now I'm trying to think of why I love it, and I think I know, but I think that's a bigger picture to really land, because that makes a lot of sense, Maya, to create that. But I think I've also heard of this idea of like scaffolding. Is that a thing? Like, where I remember always hearing like you have this other identity scaffolding about other hobbies you might have, or other, is that also a concept?
I'm cheering for what you're just saying, because what you're describing, I actually did in one of my hardest moments. It's called a self-affirmation exercise, but it's basically reminding yourself of the rich and multifaceted identity that you likely carry. So, to bring you to a tough, slight change of plans in my adult life, my husband and I had been on a journey for about 7 years to start a family and were unsuccessful. So we dealt with so many heartbreaks and obstacles and disappointments and miscarriages with our surrogate. And it was one of those things where now an identity that I've literally had since I was 3 years old with my kitchen playset was being questioned and challenged, right? And was under threat. And so I still remember the night of the second miscarriage when we found out that we had lost identical twin girls. My husband came into our bedroom and I was so grief stricken because, again, this identity is one that I've had from it's the earliest identity I've ever anchored myself to. And maybe that's because of
And
cultural
society,
reasons,
many
growing
girls
up
anchor themselves too, I think. You're
society.
absolutely, yeah.
100%. It's actually only in recent years that I've realized like how much I've been told by society that my self-worth as a woman comes from procreation. Like,
Mm-hmm.
that is what is going to give my life meaning and worth. And I've had to undo some of that, and we can talk about that in a little bit. But change can serve as a moment of revelation where we kind of realize all the false beliefs we've been laboring under that have been holding us back. That's for
That I would
we can talk about that
actually,
in a
I would honestly, if you ever would, the real Maya would ever come grace me the honor, I would love to do an entire other episode on that, because it's something that
Sure.
I have so many friends and people close to me, and it's
And people
like,
don't talk about it enough. And to your point, it's the emotional loss of losing these lives that you feel. I had a very high risk pregnancy too, twin girls. Thank God, but we also, it was all of that emotion and the fear, but then also
Absolutely.
I think to your point, and you also, you start to question yourself. What am I? And there's so many facets to it, but it's funny because that just makes me, I look at you and I see you as so maternal to the people you even interact with. Like, mothers are to bring out the best in others. And you do that immediately with people that you just interact with. And please God, if you still want to, I think please God, you will be a mother of your own child. But I see that when I'm thinking about not the what, but the why, it feels like you
Yeah.
do that the second you meet people. But
That is like such a beautiful compliment. And I really take that one to heart because of what I've been through and asking myself about my why, like what was drawing me towards motherhood, and can I achieve that through other
yeah.
means? So like you said, like I'm an aunt to my 6 nieces and nephews. And I do feel like with my podcast, I'm able to give back in that way and to care for people. And so going back to the story, so he comes into our bedroom and he's like, Maya, let's or Mai, that's his nickname for me. He's like, let's name like 5 things we're really grateful for. Like, let's just go through a gratitude exercise. And I was like, dude, no. Okay. I feel like shit. I'm not doing a gratitude exercise. You take your toxic positivity nonsense over in the corner. You do your gratitude exercise. I'm staying here with the covers over me. I'm not doing any of this. And then he like slowly wore me down. And finally I was like, okay, fine, whatever. I just to get him off my case. And like, cause he was looking all sweet and, innocent. I was like, fine, let's just do this. And so I started to rattle off a couple things, right? So I was like, well, I'm really grateful that um, I've gotten to work with the same people that I've worked with for over 10 years. Like, what a blessing to get to work alongside some of your best friends. That's really unusual. And I love my Zoom workouts with my personal trainer. And I love being an aunt to my nieces and nephews and spoiling them and not having to worry about disciplining them. And this list just flowed out of me effortlessly. Like, oh my gosh, I love the conversations I get to have on a slight change of plans. And how amazing is it that we get to live in California? I love being a Californian. So I swear to God, you guys, something magical happened when I engaged in what was unknowingly a self-affirmation exercise. So self-affirmation, it can be done in about 5 or 10 minutes. You just write down all the identities that you really value in your life and that bring your life great meaning that are not threatened by the change you're currently going through. So these were all of the identities that were adjacent and not intersecting directly with motherhood that I really cherished. And what happened when I engaged in that mental exercise is that I immediately zoomed out and I saw my life with much greater perspective than I had before. And what can happen when we're chasing after a goal, and like Talia, you were saying that like, you're in business, right? And so you're probably always just like after the next thing and after the next thing, is that we can become so single-mindedly focused on achieving something, we just lose sight of how otherwise rich and multidimensional our lives are. And so I just remember that night, like I didn't go to bed happy, obviously. I wasn't like, yay, life is great. But I did go to bed feeling more whole. Like, not everything about my life had been threatened by this change, and that's the benefit of self-affirmation. It actually studies show it can prevent you from entering into denial, because when you feel like your whole identity is under threat, of course, you're not gonna acknowledge the reality of your situation. But when you remember that
Yes.
that is actually a small part of a much bigger ecosystem in which you live, then you're like, "Okay, yeah, maybe I can handle this truth." And so that's another thing that can really help you through the identity crises that change often brings about.
I love that. And this is
And
such like
sorry, I wanna go
tangible.
back to something Matt said. Oh, sorry. Like you said, like people asked you, how did you end up in this? Sorry to interrupt, but like, how did you end up in this place that you're at? And you're like, I just made do with everything that was still left, right? That's how you said it. You made do with everything that was still left. And I think that's exactly right. Like that is what it means to think about your identity in this multifaceted way.
It's sometimes I feel guilty. I don't know if it's like guilt or like people, like they look at me and be like, you're such an inspiration, how you went and did X, Y, and Z, whatever it is. I'm like, yes, on the other side, it looks like that. But like while I was in it, it wasn't like, you know what?
Totally.
I lost my fingers, my ability to do so many things I want to do. But you know what? I still got this, and a great personality, and I'm going to go ahead and show it, It's like feel like, where'd you get that strength from? I'm like, I didn't feel that then. Like,
You just kept
like,
putting one foot in front of the other. Like
I was just like, yeah, like if I could do anything, I probably wouldn't be able to practice as a behavior analyst, but I'm going to see if I could pass this exam. That will give me like one, like, sense of reinforcement in my life, that I'm not like totally done, that I like at least, even if it's a degree or a certification, that in that moment is like, my goal, like to go towards, I'll go towards it, whatever it is. And then the things that I'm utilizing now is like the things that make my business fly. Like I'm like, oh, well, I always loved art. So that's how like the method of teaching came around. Is like, I'm not just teaching you, I'm doodling notes with you the entire time. You're taking notes with us during class. And like, I didn't see those things then, but somehow I think it's kind of like when someone loses their hearing or something, they'll be like, oh, well, you'll become much better at, what is it? Like, or if you lose your sight, you'll become much better at hearing different things going on or smelling things going on. And I kind of think it's like these things about myself that I wouldn't have realized before until you lose something.
Okay. So I just can't get over how everything you're saying is like,
that's
at
what
the
I'm saying.
center
Like
of my
listening
world.
to your stuff, and I felt the same way. I was like, And like you talk about getting
I'm
that
like,
violin gift, I like remember asking my parents for an overhead projector. Like everything that you were asking for, I had like a parallel, but like it was like up an overhead projector. That's all I want.
okay, so totally kindred spirits. What you're reminding me of is this notion that when a terrible thing happens in our lives, it can feel like a personal apocalypse, right? So you're in the hospital, you're grappling with this lupus diagnosis, you're grappling with your fingers literally falling off, right? It's like the sky is falling. What is happening in my life? And what's so interesting about the word apocalypse is that it actually comes from the Greek word apocalypsis, which means revelation. And so this etymology is actually really instructive because what it says is that change can upend us, yes, but it can also reveal things to us about who we are and what we care about and what our values are and what our perspectives are and what our abilities are. And the thesis of my book, The Other Side of Change, is that we become new people on the other side in ways that are very hard to predict, but that are so significant and crucial. It's important to remind yourself that those shifts will happen at the beginning because it can be a source of huge hope. So I remember thinking when we were at the start of this, like trying to start a family journey and we were not having success, um, being a certain kind of way. And I fell prey to what a lot of people fall prey to. It's called the end of history illusion. And it basically says that while we totally acknowledge that we've changed a lot in the past, we forget that we're going to change a lot in the future. So, for example, if I asked you, like, or if you asked me, Maya, here's this picture of you from high school. Like, are you the same person? I'd be like, oh my God, absolutely not. We are wildly different humans. I'm going to try to forge as much psychological distance as I can between me and this other human, right? But if you were to ask me today, well, how much are you going to change moving forward? I would say something like, no, I'm more or less how I'm always going to be. Like, this is a finished product. And we see this bias across humans. Okay. So it's a well documented phenomenon. But what that means is that we forget at the outset of a change when we're feeling so daunted by it, like, I could never get through this. There's no way I can handle this. That the person who's going to actually be handling it will be different and new relative to the person you are today. So the right question to ask isn't, how will I navigate this change? But how will I, with potentially new perspectives and capabilities and values, navigate this change? And that has been a huge source of light for me in my own life because I've seen this transformation happen, not just in all the people I've interviewed for the book and for my podcast, but within myself. Like, I have found that the big changes that happen in my life have also led to lasting change within me. You know, they don't just happen to me, they happen in me. And I just want to remind everyone who's going through a really tough time, like, there will be a level of growth and self transformation that is so powerful. And while you might not enjoy that the change happened, while you might resent the change, by and large, everyone I've spoken to has at least expressed gratitude for the person they became on the other side of change. And I wonder if you feel that way, Leah, but it sounds like you do. Like, you're the
Totally.
person you are
And as you
now.
were saying this, also a couple years ago, I got divorced, which like also was not in my, like, no one in my family had been divorced. Like in the like religious Jewish community, it seemed like absolutely crazy to do this. But like what gave me the strength to do it was reading Untamed and like reading Glennon's work on like and I'm going to say it wrong because I haven't read it in a while, which means I probably should read it again. It's like along the lines of like first the breaking, then the whatever, then the resurrection. And do you know what I'm talking about? In when she talks about like you have to completely like break in order to become something new.
Yes.
And like so many things in her book were like that. And that's kind of what it reminds me of like, you got to have it like shaken up in order for real change to happen.
Yes. And we are changing all the time, but like you said, a massive change, right? That anvil dropping from the sky can really accelerate that internal transformation because it does totally shake up the system. And that's because I think the unique stresses and demands of being thrust into a new reality reveal things to us that were previously hidden from view. And only with that new information about who we are, because we didn't actually have a complete understanding of who we are, can we shape the road ahead and try and become the person we really want to be, right? That's the power of change. There's a woman that I interviewed for the book. She was in her early 20s. She was a college student when she experienced a massive brainstem stroke that left her unable to voluntarily move any of the muscles in her body other than the muscles that control her eyes. So she was left with what's called locked in syndrome. This is
Oh,
most
I've heard
people's
of
worst
this.
nightmare.
Yes.
You're
Mhm.
fully conscious. You have all the same thoughts and feelings and emotions as before, but you can only communicate with the world by blinking. Okay? So I think if people have read like The Diving Bell and the Butterfly or seen the
Yes.
movie,
Mhm.
that's the condition that I'm talking about. So imagine you're a college student who wakes up in a hospital bed, and the only way you can communicate is your aunt is putting her finger on the letters of the on the letters of the alphabet, and when she gets to the right letter, you blink and you slowly and painfully construct words that way. Okay, so this is Olivia, and what was so fascinating about her story, and this is why I loved writing this book so much and spending so many hours and years with these people that I interviewed, is that you could never anticipate what was going on in their minds as they were going through this, right? Like that's the premise of all of my work. I want to know what's happening inside. Like what's the interior life and transformation of someone going through something like this. And it turns out that through this change, through this breakage, she realizes that she was so beholden to what other people thought of her. And the reason why she has this revelation is that when you're locked in, you have no ability to curate a version of yourself that you find palatable for other people. So the moment when her condition actually dawned on her wasn't when her caregivers, had to uh had to introduce a bedpan into her environment, or when she literally found herself unable to, you know, have a sip of water. It was when her boyfriend's family came to visit,
Mm.
and she felt so insecure around them, and she's like, "I can't be who I wanna be in front of these people. This is so awful." And almost by brute force, because she couldn't curate this perfect version of herself, over the time, right, over the years, she was forced to just reckon with who she really was. The unvarnished, messy, complicated, at times extremely vulnerable version of herself that she had never wanted to acknowledge. And then she slowly sees that her caregivers actually really love that version of Olivia. So she starts to wonder, well, if they really like me just as I am with no performance, maybe I can love myself too. And at the end of her journey, first of all, she does have a miraculous recovery, but importantly, she
Oh,
doesn't
wow.
fully recover. And it's such an incredible testament to her mental journey, because she had always felt like a full recovery was necessary for her to defend her existence on earth, right? This is someone who already felt that pre-stroke she wasn't good enough to be loved by others. And yet, because of this internal evolution of starting to love herself, she gets to this point where she's like, you know what? If this is how I always stay, if I don't improve even a little bit more from now on, I'm okay with that. Like, I just have to be okay with who I am today. And she demonstrates a level of self acceptance. She's now in her late 20s, that all of us would kill for. I swear to God. Like, I'm looking at this younger woman, right? Thinking, if only I could get Olivia's self assurance. And I think that, again, that is the power of change. It has the ability to reveal things to you that are holding you back. In this case, that she was so obsessed with other people's perceptions, and then to actually rework those assumptions to become a better person on the other side.
Wow.
And so she's made a recovery. That's also that gave me so much hope
I
when you
mean,
said
it's
that.
extraordinary. Yeah, I mean, I get chills even thinking about her, but
Like
she
when
can
you
like
interview her, she's
walk.
speaking?
Yes. It's incredible.
Wow.
I mean, my uncle, who is a neurologist, I connected the two of them because I just wanted to make sure she had
Yeah.
like the best access to some of the best doctors. He told me he had never seen a situation like this before, a case like hers.
Wow.
Yeah. And so the totality of that story, which is she has this incredibly impressive recovery, but at the same time, it means less to her than she thought it would, because she's learned to love herself internally, is
Yes.
so beautiful and poignant, you know?
And like it just does show like what do they like, pressure makes diamonds. Like that's just like very oversimplifying, but like she wouldn't be able to, she gained so much self-assurance and stuff that like she had to go through I mean, you do see on the other side, sometimes the harder the hurdle on the other side, what she gained. I mean, have you,
Yes.
and those stories are so
Can I say
motivating.
something on that?
What'd
Sorry,
you
can I
say?
just say something on
Yeah.
that point? Which is, there's a reason I called my book The Other Side of Change, you know?
Yeah.
And it's because exactly as you said, she said at the end of one of our last conversations, she said, "I've gotten to a place of self-assuredness that would have taken me decades to get to had I ever gotten there at
Yes.
all." And I feel like that's what's so beautiful because look, I'm a people pleaser. I care a lot about what other people think of me. I'll be the first to admit it. It's just such a human instinct, right? To want other people to like you and to love you. And to see someone so radically transformed because they were put in the pressure cooker reminded me of something I talk about in the book, which is sometimes the hardest moments in our lives can actually be opportunities to reimagine who we can be, to unlock our hidden potential. And it can be so hard, to your earlier point, Leah, it can be so hard in the moment to really grok this because you're like, this is such a bad, horrible situation. How could there be anything redemptive about this? Right. Like when you're in the throes of it, it's very hard to see this. But I just want to reassure people that on the other side, they will see what they went through a new perspective and a new lens, and hopefully a much more optimistic, positive one, because they're able to witness all of this transformation that happened within themselves.
I don't know if something that you like, so I'm obviously dealing with a lot of people studying for an exam, right? And some of them, like if they don't pass, if they, like whatever it is, they're taking it for the seventh time, whatever it is. And I always tell people, I'm like, whatever you're going through right now, and like, I'm like, okay, you guys are studying to become behavior analysts, right? In behavior, we look at everything as an antecedent, behavior, and consequence. Okay. So that means like every single thing in your life up until now you've got through, right? Like here you are.
Yep.
So like, let's look at your past contingencies. Like, let's look what happened. Okay. You never thought you'd pass that test in high school, whatever it was. Did you do it? Yeah. Okay. You didn't think you'd get through college because like you knew you were so stressed out during the time. Someone in your family was diagnosed with cancer and that's it. Did you get through it? Yep. Right. And so like I know like for me, I use my personal story. Like it's my like comparing thing. I'll be like to myself, like, "Ugh, Leah, come on. You're scared, like it's something stupid, right? It could be like you're scared to get a Brazilian wax. Come on, girl, you've watched your fingers fall off. Like you've got this." So I like, tell people all the time, I'm like basic
Great
behavior,
reference point.
right? Like we look at these things all the time. And what you're saying about Olivia, I think the same thing. Like so many things in life, I feel so lucky. I'm like, I don't give a shit about. Like you're worried about this. Dude, I am walking today. I'm able to dress myself today. Like I couldn't give a shit about X or, like,
Right.
do you feel like you use like your story also as like okay, I thought I like lost everything here, or like to try like bring yourself back to reality on different things?
Absolutely. Yeah, it's incredible perspective giving, right? And it's so interesting that you mentioned this thing about like um these self-limiting beliefs that can really hold us back and having to go into the past to kind of remind ourselves of our own fortitude and our own resilience. Um one of one chapter I devote entirely to rumination because one thing that change generates a lot of is uncertainty. And we know that our brains hate uncertainty. They're not wired to enjoy uncertainty. So, one of my favorite research studies shows that people are more stressed when they're told they have a 50% chance of getting an electric shock than when they're told they have a 100% chance. So, we would rather be certain that a terrible thing is going to happen than to have to grapple with any uncertainty.
Mm.
And what happens in the aftermath of change is that our minds can just start spinning, right? We'll catastrophize the future. We'll be like, there's no way I can succeed at this exam. I'm 100% going to fail. Or we look to the past and we have so many regrets. Like we ruminate over a failed relationship. What could I have done differently? Did I say the wrong things? Maybe they would have kept loving me if I had done this or that, right? And so I talk about a lot of evidence-based strategies for how we can calm our nervous system and see the problem that we're currently confronting from new vantage points in order to boost our resilience in the face of change. And one of them is related to what you just said. It's called mental time travel. So our brains have this amazing ability to travel both backwards and forwards in time. And we can actually use this to our benefit at moments when we are feeling very disoriented by the change we're going through and we are in these negative mental spirals. So you can travel to the past to do exactly what you did, which is to remind yourself of times when you actually did overcome adversity and you got through a lot of crap and you did it with astounding levels of resilience. And that can bolster you in the immediate term and remind you that you are probably more capable than you thought. The other thing you can do is go to history to remind yourself that as a society, we've gone through so much, and through a combination of self-sacrifice and collective action, we've been able to overcome what seemed at the time like existential problems, right? The other thing we can do is travel to the future to remind ourselves that our current worries are transient, right? So I might get up at 3 a.m. and just be in a loop over some, I don't know, really uncomfortable conversation I had with a coworker or with a boss or a friend, right? And I'm just like playing through that over and over again. And it's driving me crazy. But then I can ask myself, how am I going to feel about this situation 5 hours from now, 5 days from now, 5 years from now? And when you do like the 5 years from now version or the 15 years from now version, instantly you've zoomed out and you can see the current situation. Like, oh my God, this test, I'm not going to be thinking that much about this particular test 15 years from now. And if it doesn't go as well as I thought it was, as well as I hoped it would, I could take it again. Maybe I actually pivot to another space, but things will be okay 15 years from now. And so I use mental time travel all the time to get out of my own head and to have a slightly calmer posture in the face of rumination.
So there's actual research behind it. I like it.
I love that. That 100% certainty versus 50% makes sense. Like, uncertainty.
Like, let me
is
know
so
if I'm going to get fucked right now. Like, just let me know.
Yeah, like you just want to know.
Like, I don't want to be worried that I'm going to. Like it makes sense.
Yeah.
So that way. Because it sounds wild, but at the end of the day, like, I'm like, yeah, bring on the shocks. I would rather not have to deal with the anticipatory pain. Thank you very much.
100%.
So,
It's so funny. I once had a boss who was so passive aggressive, but also volatile. Sometimes she'd be so nice, and sometimes she'd be such a bitch. And I said, I'd rather just have 100% bitch, because the uncertainty of when I'd walk in and whether or not we were going to be friendly that day, or I was going to get reamed out. Like, I'd rather just be consistently reamed out than like not knowing which way the wind was going to go. And so it makes sense. Like, it's obviously science backed.
Yep. We call that a variable ratio schedule, which we come back for more.
It's behavior, bitches.
Hey guys, it's your favorite bitch, Liat here. Are you stressing about taking the BCBA or BCABA exam? Feeling like you don't know where to start? You got into this field, you're worried, your program didn't prepare you so much, you're wondering how you're going to get through grad school, then let alone take this test? Well, let me take that stress on for you. Over here at Study Notes ABA, this is what we do. We eat, breathe, sleep, thinking about the BCBA exam. I've been carrying around my Cooper book for the last 8 years so that you can chill. If you're getting ready to study and wondering what you could be doing, sign up for our live collective. It's 12 weeks, which is done over 24 classes. We meet twice a week. It's taught from actual BCBAs who have been there in your shoes studying for the exam. We make everything relatable, funny. You are actually going to enjoy the study process. And hold me to that. If you're not enjoying it, let me know. I'll be shocked. You get a study group, people who are studying the exact same thing, shared adversity. We could ask all your questions, and we take all the notes with you. You are going to have the most beautiful doodles by the end, and your Cooper book will seem way less scary. Are you worried about payment plans? We've got that too. We get what it's like being an RBT in the field. So stop stressing, start getting ready to pass the test, and go to studynotesaba.com/collectives, and we have it all there laid out beautifully for you. Okay, I want to ask, and I know it's
I know. I just
on time.
Okay, yeah.
But I just want to ask, like, we talk about all these things, like, and I know in your book you talk about resilience, and also something in here that you had spoke about is like adapting. You talk about that people could actually train themselves to be better at adapting. I want to know, so this means like there's something antecedently someone can do. What is it? Because I mean, obviously it always feels better to deal with something before it happens, or we have less motivation to do it. But I want to know, what can we do?
Yeah. So I wanted to make sure that the other side of change was suited for people who are not just in the throes of change, but who are eager to get ahead of a future one. Or sometimes, just as importantly, to revisit a past change that has been troubling them for years and they want to renew their relationship with that change to see it differently. And so at the end of the book, I actually have an appendix, which is called a change survival kit. And it includes a distillation of all of my favorite evidence-based techniques from cognitive science and psychology and philosophy that can help people change their mindsets before they have to, right? So it'll give people studies, it'll give people thought experiments, it'll give people the right questions to ask, it'll give people some of the techniques. Like, for example, there's a lot more where mental time travel came from, like just dozens and dozens of recommendations for how people can, the practices that people can engage in right now, right? To buffer themselves from the future threat of change.
Wow.
Build some of that strength up front, because then at least you have 100% certainty that you are ready for change. Like, you don't know what the change will be, but you believe that you have 100% certainty that you're equipped to navigate whatever life throws at you. So that's kind of probably some of that. It gives you some of that strength too.
Exactly. Because look, I came at all of this work. Like, I started my podcast, A Slight Change of Plans, because I'm terrified of change and I'm bad at dealing with change. And so a lot of this was just trying to figure out answers for myself. Like, how do I deal with changes in my life with more equanimity and with less anxiety and with a greater sense of possibility? And I was eager for people to learn from my mistakes and to also, more importantly, learn from all the wisdom I've accrued from the incredible people that I've interviewed and all the scientists that I've spoken to and all the research that I've done, right? This is all just stuff that has helped me in my own life that I'm so eager to get out into the world because I found it to have a transformative impact. And so, would I say that I love unexpected change right now? Probably not. But would I say that I feel far more prepared for it? Yes, absolutely. And have I seen within myself, like, going back to an earlier discussion, if you had asked me on the night of the second miscarriage, Maya, is there anything good that's going to come from this? Like, are you going to be a better person on the other side of this change? I would have been like, hell no. Okay. There's nothing redemptive or positive about this. This just sucks. And I will not be better and I will not feel whole without this part of my life. And what blows my mind is that you are seeing me today, not having children, the happiest I've ever been, the most hopeful I've ever been, and feeling like I have the richest life that I've ever had. And like, it just makes me emotional because I never ever saw that coming. Like, I just felt like I had such a strong conviction. This is the thing, like when we aspire for things, like I just felt like I need this piece of the puzzle to click into place for me to have the life that I so would enjoy living. And I just turned out to be wrong. And I just credit the people that I interviewed for my book for facilitating this growth within me and for seeing my own life differently. And so, like, I'm allergic to two things. I'm allergic to soy and I'm allergic to cliches. So I'm the first person who's going to be skeptical when I hear someone say, like, there's a silver lining to the worst times in your life. But I promise you, like, as a cynic, as someone who wouldn't have believed that, I have seen this be true for me because I have had these unexpected slight changes of plans. I didn't become a violinist. I haven't become a mom. And yet I'm in this place of peace and richness that I could never have anticipated. And that's because I became different. And so I share that just with so much hopefulness in my heart because I could never have anticipated that happening.
I'm so happy. You deserve it all from how.
And you're a big deal now. Like, honestly, getting you on the podcast, like, was like so exciting. Like
so
you're
touching.
no, like,
I don't deserve that.
No, but like, you're a really big deal. Like, so with everything like you've gone through, like, I'm sure you never imagined doing what you're doing now. Or like,
Never.
And
Oh my
you've given
God.
people
This is the most
language for what
exciting.
this is to have to bounce back. Like you've given I love the name of a slight change of plans. It's approachable, but it's like it really makes it clear. We all have it, slight, huge, whatever it is, but it welcomes everyone to relate to how their lives have been upended, tweaked, whatever. And I think you started this conversation, and I just can't. I'm thinking about your audience listening to this, and every single person thinking of some sliding door moment, big or small, that. And to your point, the blessing when you can look back and see some of the beauty in it, and sometimes it takes months, sometimes years, but you have to believe that you will see it, and that's what can give you some of that strength. And it sounds like you've arrived at some of that now, and again, through a lot of work talking to people. It's a process, but it's so
It is a
beautiful.
process, and it's taken years, and I'm still in it, right?
Yeah.
Like, I want people to know too that I wrote this book and I approach every conversation with so much humility because I'm in it like everyone else. Like, I haven't figured it out, but I've seen glimmers of hope because I do feel the way I do today, and I never thought I would. And that makes me feel like, okay, there's something there.
Yeah.
There's something really, really promising in those insights. Love it.
Amazing. Okay, so I literally have two questions that are not related to what we've been talking about now, but both seem very important. I know that the email I get most often, probably from people like listening to the podcast, doing different things, is like, Liat, I have this degree in behavior analysis. Like I have my doctorate in applied behavior analysis. I just got my master's in it. I don't know that I want to work in the space of, autism, which is like a lot of people go there because that's where funding is, whatever it is. And I'm like, you might need to pave your own thing and kind of show your skills what they are. And this sounded familiar to when I heard about how you ended up working under the Obama administration. Can you what advice would you give to someone? And if you could tell a little bit about that story, how you like inserted yourself there.
Yeah, inserted is definitely an accurate verb. So I was at the tail end of my postdoc. I was studying cognitive neuroscience. I was working in an fMRI laboratory at Stanford, and every sign was pointing me towards, okay, you need to become a professor, like an academic of some kind, because what else does a person with degrees in cognitive psychology and neuroscience do other than become a researcher of some kind? But then I also had this voice in my head saying, this is a really bad fit for my personality. I was in this windowless basement running scans on people's brains all day, not even getting to know them interpersonally before I saw their amygdalas. And I was like, the order of operations is not correct here. And I remember calling my dad. He's a physics professor. And so I'd always, for so long I'd idolized him. And he himself was like, Maya, I'm not sure the professorial life is the one that you're going to enjoy most, right? You have to figure out what works for you given your personality. And so I remember calling my undergrad advisor and saying, okay, I don't think I want to be a professor anymore. I think I'm going to jump ship. I'm going to try to become a general management consultant. Thank you so much for all of your advising over the last 10 years. I'm really sorry I've let you down. And my advisor, Laurie, was like, okay, wait, slow your roll. Before you do that, before you buy, these prep books to interview for, consulting firms, I just heard this incredible story of how the government used insights from behavioral science to meaningfully improve people's lives. So, long story short, the government offers a national school lunch program for low income kids. So, they give low income kids free or reduced price lunch. And it was tragic because despite the fact this program was offered, millions of kids were still going hungry every day. And what the government did is that they did a behavioral audit of the program to try to understand why there were low participation rates. And what they discovered through a behavioral perspective is that, number one, there was a big stigma associated with signing up for the school lunch program. So when I later joined the White House and I talked to parents, they were like, I work really hard for my family. I don't want my kids relying on public benefits to get by. It's a very understandable point of view.
Mm-hmm.
And then there was another factor. There was another factor, which was the government had made signing up actually quite difficult. So it was like a multi-page application process. You had to reference tax documents. Lest you fill out one field incorrectly, you might be accused of fraud, right? The stakes were high. Like imagine you're a single mom trying to just make ends meet. You're working 3 shifts.
Anyone studying, that's high response effort. High response effort. In marketing, you call it friction.
High friction, yeah.
Keep going.
Exactly. And so now you have to ask your boss is it okay if I leave at noon because I have to go to the post office to mail this form so it reaches exactly on the date it needs to, we have to consider these factors that are plaguing people who are limited when it comes to time and resources. And so they used a very elegant insight from the field of behavioral science, namely the power of the default option. So this is when you simply change the default setting from an opt-in program to an opt-out program. So now parents only had to take an affirmative step if they actively wanted to opt their kid out of the program. Everyone was automatically enrolled as a default, right? And as a result of this small tweak in the policy design, 12.5 million more kids were now eating lunch at school every day. And I remember hearing this example and my heart just started racing because I thought, oh my God, this is the kind of work that I want to be doing. I want to be translating insights from the field of decision making and risks, preferences, and whatnot into improvements in people's lives. And public policy is one way that I could do that. And so then to your question, Leon, there was no actual job for a behavioral scientist. And so I ended up sending a bunch of cold emails to people in the White House, and they would, it was ridiculous. Like, hey, I'm Maya. I've published nothing of significance and I have no public policy experience, but I would really love to do this sort of job. And I know I'm not cool enough to work with Obama, but maybe there's a state or local government opportunity for me. I mean, it was just like seeping with insecurity, the whole email. And thankfully for me, this former advisor in the Obama White House, Cass Sunstein, he wrote back to my email within like a minute, just kindness of strangers. He connected me with Obama's science advisor. And 2 days later, I was interviewing with this advisor or with an advisor, and not just pitching them on a new role that I wanted them to introduce in the White House, which was a behavioral scientist, but also being like, oh, and by the way, BT Dubs, can you hire me for that position? And it's still amazing to me to this day, but they said yes. And so the role was established, and I ended up building a behavioral science team in the government, and that led to the work that I did at the United Nations.
So cool.
And it was just such a beautiful reminder that sometimes when life doesn't hand you the silver platter, right, when they don't have that behavioral job that's specified for you, you can invent it yourself. You can pitch whoever you want to show them that your skill set might be useful to them in some way or another. And I still remember when Pete Buttigieg was engaging in his presidential run back in 2019, I sent him a cold email and was like, hey, I think my background in behavioral science could maybe help with debates. And so I became a debate prep advisor for him as a volunteer, just like traveling the country with him and helping him prep for the various presidential debates. And again, there was no role allocated to a behavioral scientist on his debate prep team, but I felt like there should be one. And so I just took a chance. And so that's what I would advise people to do, is just figure out where your skill set could help people in maybe unorthodox places. And then the worst thing that can happen is they don't write back to your email or they say no. And I would just want to finish my answer by saying that people only see the success stories. They don't see the number of times that I have been deadheaded, in a message. Like, people have not responded to me, or people have been like, absolutely not, I'm not interested. I've gotten so many of those, and it's just about developing thick enough skin that you still are willing to take the chances.
Yeah.
That was a really long answer. Sorry.
I love that. No, I love that.
Okay, my last most important question for everyone listening. This doesn't just hit anyone in the behavior analysis field. I want to know, how do you do your hair?
That was my question. We're so in sync.
Like, your hair always,
Your hair always looks perfect. Do you have a wand?
like, what are you using? What are your products? It's Black Friday today.
It's
Maybe
Black
I'll
Friday.
buy it.
We've got to buy some.
Yeah.
Okay, so I actually naturally have super, super, super Shirley Temple like curls.
Like tight?
But in really tight curls. Like, I'll have to send you guys a picture afterwards. It looks
Okay.
so different than this hair. But for ease and simplicity, because I have so much hair, it would take a whole day for it to air dry. And so instead, I started just doing the blow dry situation. And so this is just my hair blow dried. Like, I'll go to Dry Bar or a place like that, or just have a friend help me with it.
Oh, so you'll go get it done.
Yes,
Meaning,
I'll get it done.
Doug,
or I'll
are
do it
you could do that to yourself?
I typically would need assistance.
Okay.
Because my
You
arms
are
would
human.
get tired. I'm also just not good at hair. Like, I don't know how to do makeup. I don't really know how to do hair. But I will, yeah. Like, I had my friend Karina come over, and I was like, hey, do you mind just
Because you really
helping
are
me
hair
straighten my
goals.
hair?
So thank you to Karina. It
Could
looks
be-
great.
Yeah, you're like a
That.
Kardashian.
Yeah, Kardashian hair.
Oh my god, you guys are so nice. Thank you
Or
so
you could
much.
be on like The Bachelor. I love it. Well, thank you so much for coming on today. Because I had only like the PDF version of your book, I was only able to like read parts of it because I like to hold a book. So I cannot wait till I can get my hands on a physical copy. And
We will
I'm
send
sure
you
after
one.
hearing this today, a lot of people, I think it's going to help so many people. And if you are looking to get your hands on this book, which everyone, I feel like this is also a book that I'd love to do for the Behavior Bitches Book Club, which we're restarting in the new year. And I could read it with like all fellow,
Oh yeah.
Oh
oh my
my
God.
gosh.
And then maybe I could have you come to a group and show face.
Surprise! Like it's like when the Bachelor shows up to the viewing party.
Yes.
Parties. Oh my gosh, that would be such a joy.
Oh my
A
gosh.
watch party, but a book party.
No, it actually would be really cool. So we'll have to talk about that. So anyone who wants to get their copy of The Other Side of Change, it is out now. When this podcast is out, it is out. This is Who We Become When Life Makes Other Plans. Wherever you buy your books, you could get this book. I would likely go to Amazon because that's where I get everything. And it's all in the show notes. You'll get it all there. But Dr. Maya, thank you so much for coming on. I couldn't be more excited. This was just felt so like,
It felt so right.
yes.
Kismet. And the fact that it's the
This
9-year
was
anniversary of your
really
fingers,
organic.
like,
Yes.
it feels like there's divine.
Yes,
Yeah.
my time hop came up. I get time hop on my phone, like showing whatever was happening 1 year ago on this day, 2 years, 3 years. And then I started seeing the pictures of like my black like fingers on the end, like all thin and dark. And I was like, oh my God.
Yeah, so 9 years.
That was
ago.
9 years ago. And like, so it's amazing that it happens to be the day that we're recording this. So
Yes.
Congratulations on this
Thank you.
anniversary.
thank you.
Thank
done.
you so much, and wishing you so much success with this book. I have no doubt it's going to be a bestseller.
Thank you.
For
I
sure.
can't wait for it. I'll have to have Josie send you guys a physical copy because I really would love it if you read it. And I think
Oh,
you,
I'm going to
you
blow
will-
through it.
You will resonate with it so much. Oh my God.
Yes.
Oh my gosh, I can't wait. No, but we're going to go buy it and support you. Don't worry. We'll get there
Oh,
on
thank you.
January
You have
13th.
All right, everyone. You know where you can find us. You can find us on behaviorbitches.com. If there is a topic or a guest or anything specific that you want us to do on the episode, or you just want to like reach out and give some positive reinforcement, I'm down for that too. You could also leave that positive reinforcement on Spotify or Apple, wherever you listen to your podcast. Also, okay, let me tell you guys, our YouTube really needs some love. We only started it a couple months ago, and that's the reason I have to like do my makeup every time I record an episode now. So please make it worth my time and go and subscribe to Behavior Bitches Podcast on YouTube. Thank you. And you can find us on Instagram at Behavior Bitches Podcast, TikTok, Facebook, all of it. Head on over there. You'll find Behavior Bitches. And as always, love ya.
Mean it.
It's behavior, bitches.
Okay, wait. I'm like really excited about this one. We are starting the Behavior Bitches Book Club. It's about time. I mean, we need this, and we have the best book to start, and you could be a part of it. Our first virtual meetup will be on March 18th at 8 p.m. Central Standard Time. We will be having Dr. Maya Shankar there with us, the author of the book that we chose, The Other Side of Change. This book is an incredible read. I have read it, and if you have not listened to the podcast with Dr. Maya, you better head over and listen to that now as well. This book talks about when we in life have changes that we would never have asked for or planned for, and how we come out on the other side, and how do we come out even better. So this is a book that's great for the year. It will be the motivation you need. It's just, there's solid, real stories in there. As you know, we like to keep it real, raw, and relatable. This book is definitely that. You can join this book club by grabbing yourself a copy of the book. We'll link that in the notes under the video, as well as using the link to join the virtual book club. Can't wait to see you there. It's going to be fun. Dress cozy.